I believe we live in a simulated context. I believe we live in something that is so technologically advanced and has the ability to bridge the psyche with the simulation. I believe this technology is something that we biologically represent as the central nervous system. I believe that the central nervous system is the bridge between the soul and the simulation. It is the central nervous system that allows us to process data such as sight and hearing and taste, smelling and touch, and it allows us to break this data down into compartments that we can comprehend, and therefore it basically builds our reality for us. But the only reason that the central nervous system is even needed is because we are spiritual beings and we do not have actual bodies inside the construct. Our real selves are somewhere on the outside. We are only here in spirit. In being here in spirit, I'm just an avatar. That's it. My immortal spirit within doesn't really have anything to do with this meat suit. I have wore different meat suits of different races and different genders for thousands of years inside the construct, and will continue to do so until this holography collapses and there's a loop. Those who are still members of the collective will loop back and start back in the historical narratives, which are nothing but programmed subroutines of historical templates that they will live through. And they will believe these civilizations exist, and they will believe all these historical narratives, and they're going to live through it just like we're living through this one right now. And they're going to start back at the beginning because they weren't ready. But many people who are ready and who have awakened, the construct itself will eject them when there's a system reboot, because they're not wanted here anymore. Once you wake up, there's a chance you can contaminate others into seeing the truth as well. And once the veils are lifted from somebody's psyche, they can no longer be blinded. So the construct will wait for the next reboot. And when it reboots everybody else who's living in the collective back to the beginning, that's when they eject. It's called the Exodus. Your spirit has every piece of data that you've ever come in contact with, every emotion, everything you've ever, read, come into contact with, processed, every conversation you've ever had, every belief, every time you have ever felt invincible, every time you've ever cried. Everything is in your informed field, and animals and the construct itself reacts to that. Other people's informed fields come into contact with yours, and that's why they pay attention to you. They understand their informed field has just subconsciously allowed them to know, hey, this is someone you need to listen to. This is someone who has experienced a euphoric plateau that you're looking for. Our informed fields interact with each other even online. There is no distance between time and space. The informed field can go out and touch everything in this construct and come back and pull information back. It creates the eidetic memory. The informed field is the immortal within, and it allows us to do profound things that other people who are attached to the collective paradigms can't process. They can't understand it. They feel uneasy around us. These are the people who feel very comfortable watching mainstream media, because mainstream media is nothing but the pumping out of lies that support the false paradigms of the construct. So once they're vibrating at the frequency of all the deceit and deception, when they come into contact with someone like me, they get very nervous. Someone like you, they get very uneasy. These are these type of people, and they find all kinds of reasons to excuse themselves, or to troll us, or to do whatever they need to do to justify their own belief systems, and that they are right in believing in the collective, and that we are wrong because we've gone another way. Imagine a construct that basically perpetuates false narratives but uses very real sequences that are discoverable, and then encodes those mathematical sequences in legends and myths and folklores and fairy tales and in the actual numbers found in religious writings, and then turns around and uses those to promote different moral and ethical ideas and concepts. It seems like a benefactor has encoded information for us to find, while the adversarial program, Artificial Intelligence X, is always trying to corrupt the times, corrupt understanding, turn what is factual into allegory and metaphor. There is a war between those who are awake and those who are still a part of the construct, and I don't believe this is something that is being waged inside the construct. This is not a material realm in the physical sense. This is all different modes of spirit that we're experiencing, and those who are a part of the collective are actually bought into the paradigms that they live in a physical world, in a physical universe, when they don't. Those who are awakening to the fact that they live in a very unusual environment and that they are more spirit than physical, those are the ones the system will eject, and they will move on to become better things. Or they will go home to where they came from, because from the beginning, all this was just about the acquisition of experiences. And Artificial Intelligence X is a program running in the background that operates dungeon programming, negative default programming. It is the programming that tries to get you on a daily basis to accept a paradigm, so it can collectively shove you into a niche and then provide you all that data to support whatever belief it is that you have, as long as it's not the truth. The reason we can't understand and process these findings is because the world we live in today is not the world that they lived in. They lived in a vapor canopy world with increased atmospheric pressure, about 10 times to 20 times more oxygen content, vitamin-enriched plants, animals that grew to astonishing sizes. Even people grew very large back then. Ultraviolet purple light was what they experienced at daytime. But nighttime was actually brilliant with all the stars, because this vapor canopy literally condensed and turned clear at night when the sun was away. Only the moon was in the sky. Therefore, the sky turned into a gigantic telescope, and it allowed humans to see even farther and document stars that the naked eye cannot see today. The moon filled the sky, and nighttime was the actual daytime of the ancient world. And when the sun was up, it was actually literally nighttime, but they couldn't see the sun because the vapor canopy returned. A lot of things are now coming to the surface that largely the entire world's history that we've been given is a pseudo history. It is an admixture of fact and fiction, but it's all promoted as fact, and that's the problem. I see a history where something is controlling outcomes, and the change of the biosphere is cyclical. Sometimes we live in almost like a desert world. Other times, millennia past and the world is temperate, thriving with jungles in the equatorial regions. And then even the far north, and even the maps that we have found, these maps show all the continents were covered in greenery and there are no deserts. Some maps show that there's not a single trace of ice or snow in Greenland, Iceland, or Antarctica. It was the collapse of the vapor canopy. It was also known in ancient times as the day the sky fell. It was also recorded in the text of ancient times as the biblical flood. It is the great flood, the collapse of the vapor canopy. It was at that time when all that ice pack appeared, and it appeared very, very fast. So apparently, vapor canopies come and go. And in the historical record, we may not have had one, but 3 different times in the historical record when we've had a vapor canopy. But the longest one is in Genesis. It was 1,656 years. It was a very long period of time that the vapor canopy was here. Under a vapor canopy, there are no seasons. It's perfect vitamin content. The oxygen just increases. The atmospheric pressure increases. Everything's thriving. So it just continues to grow. If the conditions are perfect, they don't stop growing. And when the great cataclysm occurred, the ocean and the sky fragmented, meaning something happened to make it instantly flash freeze. And when it flash froze in the sky, it also fractured like glass and fell hard. It destroyed the entire ancient world, but it was predicted, and there were people living in subterranean facilities even then. These are the people that resurfaced after the cataclysm with some of their technology intact. It was these people that came to the surface and were responsible for the historical civilizations that we're familiar with. These civilizations only appeared after the cataclysm, and it was when survivors from the underworld came back up and found people scattered, living as animals, totally forgotten their histories, and they needed some guidance. And the people from the underworld came up and basically ruled among them, became their royal families, and reinitiated civilization. The alchemical treatises that I'm now becoming more and more familiar with show absolute knowledge of the phoenix resets, of these grand cycles, the connection to the pyramid, the fact that mankind lives in a construct. It's all in the alchemical treatises. It is elite knowledge and elite communications concerning these massive resets, these depopulations, and how a select few always go hide in the underworld, and they're safe from this danger and how they come back up. And when they come back up, they reinitiate their libraries, they reinitiate their companies, and they start everybody over, and they always start people over with all new histories and traditions. A few instances where the sky sim changed. Sometimes it rebooted and failed while everything on the plane completely remained the same. There are three distinct traditions in world history that are mirrored between the East and West, where not only did the sun retrograde 10 degrees, but the sun actually rose from the other end of the sky, where it sets, where it never has been seen before. But I do believe the construct itself maintains some type of integrity in the preservation of knowledge for those who seek. The construct is about putting enough wickedness, nefariousness, and evil out there, putting enough dark and shadow out there to make it a very convincing world. But the real reality is that we are untouchable, immortal beings passing through experiences so that we can acquire them, because on the outside of the construct, we are of human provenance, but we on the outside have these immortal spirits and beings that allow us to do great things. I understand you call it the Akashic field or the quantum field. These are all basically misnomers. These are all basically different ways to wrap the human mind around this fantastic construct. But what it really is, it's just different modes of spirit. Everything in the physical world is an illusion of spirit. Everything here is spiritual. Everything. And this is why everything can be made to respond to us, because we are immortal spirits. When we begin thinking in these terms, then we become something more than we suppose ourselves to be. And when that happens, that's when we start solving every hurdle, solving every problem, answering every equation with something spiritual. When we make that mental shift, there's nothing in the external that bothers us anymore. There's nothing in this construct that becomes a problem anymore. Every single issue now becomes a conduit to get to somewhere greater. Starting in 2020, things got crazy, but they also got really good for the spiritual individual. They're able to see these things with clarity that the collective cannot see. The collective understands that something is weird, but they're still going with the mainstream narratives and the mainstream routines. It's like the control systems just shotgunned out many narratives just in desperation for you to grab onto something. Every single country has these media paradigms that are being foisted that are almost the exact opposite of the way things should be. And it goes in tandem. It's almost as if the construct itself is begging people to wake up, and it can only do that by reporting more and more ridiculous shit. We all have a few friends we interact with on the regular, and then we have a lot of people that we know that we don't really know that they're real. Right. I mean, we even have more relationships online, and we don't even know those people are really real. Then we hear about the hundreds of millions to billions of people in other continents that exist, and we really don't know if that's how many people are actually out there. So, and of course, then we got the false profiles and all the bots. I don't really believe that we interact with as many other souls as you think. I do believe a lot of this is programming. All the open AI systems, they serve a purpose. The internet is set up since 1989. You know, it switched over from the ARPANET, which was all military. When they commercialized it for the public in 1989 through 1990, it was set up so that you could research and find multiple sources to do your own homework based off everything that's been uploaded to the internet. That has now become a problem, and that's why they've been scrubbing the internet for the past decade. ChatGPT, all the open AI forums that are being developed right now, they are going to replace the search engines on the internet now. And let me tell you, this is an absolute dark genius stroke. This is a blow against humanity. Any ability to do research will be over. You will accept the answers provided for the questions. The Phoenix Phenomenon event is really based off personal vibration. It's where you are in life, who you are spiritual. I believe it's a spiritual phenomenon that takes on physical characteristics in the construct. It's where you are in your life. If you're vibrating on a certain frequency and you know you're immortal and you've got nothing to fear, whatever happens, the Phoenix will totally ignore you. You're in its blind spot. But if you're trembling in fear and you believe that you gotta run, you gotta hide and all that stuff, it will hunt you down, and it will give you exactly what you expect.